Well, good morning. Thank you very much to the Y2Y community for inviting the ILO to this important gathering. It's a pleasure to be here with such a young crowd and to be able to participate in this panel with such young at heart professionals. Let's see if I can get a grip of the technology. We're here today to discuss youth unemployment. I'm going to present some of the current data from ILO's Global Employment Trends for Youth report. I will then talk about the disadvantages facing young people in the labor market, and lastly, we will look into the main policy recommendations. So the GET report is our annual flagship report. It's created in Geneva by our employment trends team. In the GET report, we adopt the UN definition of youth, which is the age group between 15 and 24 years old. We present world and regional labor market indicators for youth. We analyze the trend and provide some policy recommendations and lessons learned from past experience. This is what the GET looks like. The last edition was in 2010, and we did an update in 2011, and we'll have an update this year and a full-blown report next year. So what are the key findings, the main numbers? Today, the global youth unemployment rate stands at 12.6%. That is 75 million youth are unemployed. If we take into account the 200 million unemployed worldwide, this represents 40%. So 40% of the unemployed are youth. The youth unemployment rate is typically higher than the adult rate, even in good times. We'll see why later on. The ratio of the youth rate, of the unemployment youth rate to the adult rate is between 2 to 3 times, but has increased during the crisis. Of course, there are regional differences. For example, in the Middle East, North Africa, it's about 4 times that of the adult rate, and in Southeast Asia, almost 5 times. In terms of the highest rate of unemployment for youth is in the MENA region. It stands at 25%, while the highest increase has occurred during the crisis in developed and EU countries, where the young people paid the highest price in the crisis. Now, I want to talk about a little bit about the issue of the numbers of unemployed. We also have to look at the quality of jobs. Some regions might have low unemployment rates compared to others, but we have to look at what the employed youth are doing. There are a lot of decent work deficits. Employed youth might be underemployed, they might have precarious and unproductive jobs, or they might not earn enough to lift themselves out of poverty. We also found that the youth labor force participation rates have declined, partly because of discouragement, but also young people are staying longer in education. Now, as David said, ILO thinks that youth unemployment is but the tip of the iceberg. Reducing youth unemployment is certainly a major goal, but this alone is not enough. The qualitative aspects, as I mentioned before, of work have to be addressed. If we look at the types of work youth are engaged in across the world, young people are oftentimes more likely than adults to have insecure and precarious jobs, poor working conditions, low incomes, lack of access to social protection, lack of freedom of association, and access to collective bargaining. So the challenge is to create decent work for youth. This slide shows some of those deficits. I'm not going to go into detail, but one figure to take into account is if we add those 75 million youth unemployed to the 150 million young working poor, we have a mass of 225 young people in vulnerable situations. And As mentioned before, young women tend to have more difficulty finding work than men, and this is also true for ethnic minorities and disabled people. Kavita asked me to provide 5 slides. I cheated. I have 7 more slides, but don't worry, I won't go over them because I don't have time, but they are in the presentation and in the GET report. So this is just the level and the rates across time, the regional unemployment, youth unemployment rates. This shows selected countries. To the right, the highest are Greece, Spain, and Macedonia. This is a graph that was prepared for the G20 labor ministers meeting on the needs, the youth that are not in training, education, or employment, and I think Samuel will talk a little bit more about that. Moreover, informal employment youth tend to be employed in the informal economy vis-a-vis adults. The type of jobs available, usually youth have temp jobs or part-time work, and although temp jobs might be a stepping stone to a career, they also sometimes are dead-end traps. This is the incidence of working poor. It's higher for youth than the 25-plus population. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about what are the factors that shape youth employment chances in the market. So basically, youth are more sensitive to business cycles. That was mentioned by Hassan. They suffer from first fired, last hired effect. They're the first to be dismissed during a recession, and the last to be recruited when the economy rebounds. But even in good times, youth have a hard time getting the right footing in the labor market. And there are several reasons. One of them, a key reason, is work experience. Young people often don't have a lot of experience. But this creates a catch-22 because you need experience to get a job. But to get a job, you need experience. So youth are always, have that issue. Also, the youth are not a homogeneous group. They have personal characteristics. Also, there are if you come from a background, maybe an ethnic background, or if you're a woman, if you have a disability, if you're a migrant, you probably have less good chances to get into the labor market. Education and training also affects youth. However, there is a problem of skills mismatch, and we have, as in Tunisia, the educated unemployed, where the labor market does not correspond to the acquired qualifications. Other factors shaping youth unemployment are labor market regulations, which can benefit or deter young people from getting into the labor market, the youth cohort, and the last two are personal aspirations. Youth have, you might have a reservation wage or some job reservations on what type of job you want to undertake. And lastly, a very important point is youth voices. Youth are usually unheard, and their interests are rarely taken into account in decision-making bodies. So lastly, to wrap up, what can be done? This slide is an overview of policies. There is no one-size-fits-all solution, of course, but countries will have to implement the policies that best cater to their needs. The policies have to be a combination between employment expansion with target interventions for youth. So one of the key things is the macro and financial policies have to be in place to create growth and employment-intensive growth. A second policy recommendation would be to broaden our partnerships not only with the government, working with companies, but unions, NGOs, the ministries of education, to determine what proper actions to take and how to coordinate these interventions. Also, we have to invest in quality of education and training, but it has to be also relevant to the labor market needs. Also, improving the active labor market policies, such as better employment services. These often target, are in the formal economy and in urban areas, so we need to make sure that we are targeting the disadvantaged youth, so maybe working more at the local level. Other training programs and to address skills mismatches, for example, apprenticeships and vocational training, giving incentives for companies to hire young people or mentor young entrepreneurs. And then also what we need is reliable data on market information about what's going on in the youth labor market on a regular basis. A lot of countries don't have good data, and it's like you're in the dark. So, and this goes with M&E, monitoring evaluation of programs, to see how effective they are. So this is a little bit of a package, but again, each country has to evaluate what is better for their contextual needs. Well, thank you very much, and I'm ready to answer any questions.